Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Runners Roundtable in season 6. It's the Beyond Pace season where I am so lucky to speak to some incredible women about their favorite running memories. And today I'm joined by Annika Brubaker. She was on the podcast before that. It was the whole season where I spoke to nothing but run coaches, which was just such a joy for me. So it's fun to have you back because I'm going to spoil it, y'all. I'm going to spoil it. You also do race directing, which
Yeah.
I remember at the time just being so fascinated because I feel like I've never met. I mean, I know of race directors, but I don't think I've ever met a female race director. So it was really cool to talk to you about that. And I know you're still race directing and all that fun stuff. But before we get into that stuff, can you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about your running story? And yeah, I guess catch us up some on what running's been like for you since the last time you were on the podcast in 2023.
Yeah. Um, Man, I think in 2023 I ran my first 100K. So that was exciting. That must have been I was probably training for that the time when we were because we just looked it up. That was in January. So I will try to summarize my running story. I did not grow up a runner. Did not run cross country, knew nothing about it. And I started running in my mid 20s as a way to work through grief and depression. I had lost my dad when I was 18.
Mm.
So it had been several years, but didn't really know how to deal with that and was really struggling. I was in my early years of marriage. And so I thought, I'll start running. I need something to do. I heard that was great for you and it's free, which is kind of funny because once you get into it, and now I do trail running and mountaineering stuff and you have to have all the things. But um, and I was really terrible at it. I did not know anything. The one thing I did do right, we have a local running shoe store. I went down and said, I need a pair of running shoes. And so I did get a good pair of shoes. But I would do races. I started doing races and I'd finish and feel terrible. I was always vomiting, major stomach issues. And I'd look around and be like, people are happy. Like they actually look like they're enjoying this. So how? How are they enjoying this? Because I'm miserable and so sick and just sore all the time. So I just started researching and reading and all this stuff, anything I could get my hands on. And that was kind of before Instagram became, now I feel like everybody shares everything on Instagram. There's too
Mhm.
much information, but that was a little bit before that. So I was going and reading blog posts and stuff. So I, yeah, I started to just implement what I learned. And I had a couple friends. I did not even know a lot of runners, but they're like, hey, you're getting a little bit faster and you're doing better at your races. What are you doing? Um, so then I think that led me into I wanted to get certified with Road Runners Club of America for run coaching, not necessarily for other people at that point. I just wanted to learn more information to help myself because I didn't know any other run. I was just like, I'm going to get all the knowledge to help myself. Um, but yeah, and it did work. I was actually able to, on my own, I think I got right to like 4 hours, 4:04 on my marathon. It just trying everything I learned. But and then I've been coaching. Actually, ended up coaching with Team Run Run, and I've been with them
Mhm.
since 2020, coaching runners.
Wow.
They're phenomenal to work with, and yeah, I get to meet people and coach them all over the world. So that's kind of fun. The last couple of years, it's been a lot more local people, which has been fun too, because I get to see these people, and a lot of times they run the races that I actually put on. So, after you train them for so many years, it's fun to like see them in person and be at the finish line versus a million miles away and you never meet them on that. But yeah, and the race directing part, I started working for a running club. Well, it was just volunteer. I didn't get paid for it. 2019, it was a half marathon. Um, yeah, 2020, that was our virtual year, but that was kind of my start. And then with another runner, I started Run the River Marathon in, let's see,
Mm.
20, it must have been at the end of 22. Our first year to put it on was 23 on there. And so last year at that event, we had over 1,000 people. So it's really grown every year. I also do for like 2 different nonprofits here locally, help them put on like their fundraising race. And then I started Run the River, which is a half marathon, 10K, 5K. And so I direct that one. I think I have 5 total in a year that I put on, various from owning perspective to volunteer, nonprofits, helping them, and a school one on there. So just gearing up, just finished putting on one, and now we're like gearing up for all the spring races, getting those on.
What's your favorite part about race directing?
Oh, so I do all the swag, like I design the medals and
Okay.
age group awards, finishers award, all that stuff. So that's really fun. I actually met little side story. I was hiking this summer and I saw this guy and I think I had on a hat that was from my race, Run the River. And he turns around, he passes me on the trail and it was really steep. He goes, "Oh, I loved that race." And I go, "Oh, thank you." And then I said, "Yeah, I own that race and put it on." And he goes, "Oh, you know what I like? The medals. They're big and they're heavy." And everybody gets their own medal, like that. They're all different. That's one of my pet peeves when you run a marathon and the 5K gets the same one. It says marathon, half marathon, 10K, 5K.
Yeah.
No, the marathons are the biggest, and it says marathon finisher. And so it's like, it was just a really like full circle, cool moment. But I also added female hygiene kits this past year. So at the start and finish line, we had little clear boxes so you could see. They were all organic cotton pads, tampons, little dark bags. And then I put one at every aid station along the course for the marathoners. And they got used. So I was, when I brought them, I filled them all, put them all out there and brought them back. And so that made me really excited. We can never plan for our races. And so that was just a fun little thing of saying, "Hey, we think about you female athletes out there." And I heard several people say like, "Oh, wow, that was really cool to have that." So just
awesome.
Yeah, when you're a runner and you put on running events, you think of things a little bit differently. Like, how can I make this day the best possible? They've trained 4 months and I want this to be a day of celebration for them.
I love that. My family would have been so annoyed with me because whenever I go to events, like and it recently happened at a volleyball tournament, and it's a volleyball tournament for all girls. And we've been to a few volleyball tournaments, but this one in particular, it had a table with like tampons, pads, chapsticks, hair ties. And I took a picture and my family's like, "Of course you would." I'm like, "You don't understand. It's a big deal to have it out in the open, right? It's not like it's hidden. It's actually out in the open where everyone can see it."
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a race director. She puts on Crazy Mountain. It's an ultra in Montana. I believe it's in Montana. Montana. She was the first one that I've seen done that, just female owned. And that was her thing, is don't hide it. They should not have to ask for it. Put it out there where everybody can see it in a clear, to where they don't have to be like, where's the female, just have it out there where nobody has to be, because sometimes races do have it, but you have to like ask or go find, and nobody wants to do that.
No, it's like just normalize it, right? Especially when you're thinking about the shifting dynamics. Sorry, I dropped something. Yeah. The shifting dynamics of racing, right? Where it's like more women are racing. So you would think that those things, especially runners, where for the most part, we're not shy about what's like bodily functions.
Right. Yeah. So why is that not, so I don't know, maybe that will inspire other people to change that or go back to other races. And it really did not cost that much money. Like, here's the thing. I put together 12 different boxes, they were good size with nice items. We're not talking about cheap plastic play tech. It was still did not cost that much money so I'm like, why cannot everybody, Anyways,
Especially because it's not like everyone's going to use it anyways, right?
right,
So
right, yeah, and it
it's an
doesn't go
added
bad.
perk.
So yeah,
Absolutely. It's an added perk.
I like
Okay.
your thing. I think I'll add to it chapstick and hair ties next year.
Yeah, that was again like at the volleyball tournament. I was like, oh my God, like just the chapsticks, the hair ties, just little things like that that I feel make the biggest difference for us.
Right.
And I know I'm excessive, but it's like I always have a chapstick on
Yeah.
me. Or
Oh
if
yeah.
not, I mean, listen, right now on my desk, I have three different lip products on my
Yeah.
desk alone. Like I
Oh,
always
yeah.
just
Yep.
that. So like when I see a chapstick, like I get excited. It doesn't even have to be anything fancy. I'm just like, this is so nice. Like, thank you.
Yes. I told my cross country girls that I coach, I said, if you ever need anything, and I did put hair tie in there, I said, you have the word, use the word, I need chocolate. And I had a little bag for them in with my stuff and had, hair ties and chapstick. And they thought it was funny. They never, they're younger girls, so they never really took me up on the offer, but I did.
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, I have everything for you. If you need it, just say, I need chocolate.
absolutely.
We'll go get chocolate.
Absolutely. Listen, I was that mom at the volleyball tournaments that had a little pink pouch with, I
Yeah.
mean, all the medicine you could use, extra hair ties, like biofreeze, like I had it all and everyone knew that I had it, but there's something really it just normalizes it,
Mhm.
right? Having that stuff accessible. And it also empowers either the women or the girls or the females that are there to ask, like to take advantage and ask for those things and to start expecting that at other races and other places. Because again, shifting dynamics of running means more women, more females are taking up space. So, how, like, a porta potty is like, yes, it's great, thank you, but the
Right.
female body has other needs and
Right.
it's
Right.
okay to cater to that.
It is. And yeah, we should think. But the majority of race directors are men.
Yeah.
Just like it used to be, the majority of coaches are men, and they don't want to be bothered by that, which is sad on there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know what? Listen, may people hear our words and go to their next event and say, where are the pads? Where are the
right.
tampons?
Yeah.
Where are the hair ties? Because it's true. Like, even when you're thinking of like a medical tent, right? They don't have hair ties, just something like that, where I'm like,
Yeah.
hi. I mean, you can get Vaseline, which is great. Vaseline, biofreeze, all that stuff. But like, hair tie would probably be really useful to have at these
Be
races as
really
well.
useful. Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. So coming back to the topic of this
Yeah.
episode is your favorite running memory. So can you share what that one memory is? And I know I feel like I'm asking a lot of you all to like break it down to one memory. But if you have one memory in specific, can you share that with us?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, because we're talking like that involves pace just in general, pace goals or not
I would say
overall.
I'd say what I've been telling you all is what's that one memory that you've told the story of multiple times to different people?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, that would be my doing my 50 miler pregnant, 5 months pregnant. But that whole journey started out, I had trained so hard to run CIM in December of 21, the best shape I'd ever been. I worked with a coach for months and I was on track to run like a 350 marathon. Never felt more confident in the whole world, like on top of the, stars, moon, sun, the whole thing. And found out the day before I think I left to fly out for that race that I was pregnant. And so I felt like I knew I'd done already my long runs there. But I was like, I just didn't feel comfortable pushing the paces that I had trained for and wanted to run. So I'm like, I'm going to do it off of Phil. That was really just a training marathon though, because my goal was to run a 50 in the spring. Um, and then once I found out I was pregnant, I was like, probably not going to happen, but I still needed that little carrot out there to keep me motivated. I felt super good. And thankfully, my OB actually was a runner. So I went to my first appointment. He's like, well, how have you been? I'm like, oh, I just ran a marathon. He's like, yeah, not surprised. But I did not get the courage up to tell him till my next appointment that I wanted to run a 50 miler. And it didn't even faze him. This is the thing. I thought he would be like, you can't do that, And he goes, well, Badger's that's our local ultra marathon. He's like, that is a hard one. And for your first one. And I said, oh, I've already done 50. He's like, okay, you'll be fine. He goes, but you have to eat and drink and don't worry about how long. He goes, if you stop drinking and you stop eating, you're done. And so we had a lot of conversations then, for that. We wanted to make sure that I had my anatomy scan. And he said, I won't officially give you the clear until you have that anatomy scan and get the results and make sure everything's okay, in like your body, baby. We did a bunch of lab work. And so that was 1 week before the Badger Mountain Challenge, my 50 miler. So I trained for this 50 miler, knowing that there was a good chance that I may not be able to do it. But I went ahead and said, you know what, I'm just going to train for it. My coach knew, obviously, I was pregnant. I was also working with a physical therapist and a chiropractor. So I'd rotate like chiropractor 1 week, physical therapist. Not that I had any major issues, but just to stay on top of things. Mm-hmm. And I won't forget, like we went and had the anatomy scan and whatever. And right after that, his nurse called and said, well, he said, you can do your 50. Everything looks great, And that was like, oh, I'm going to do this. But that would have to be my overall favorite, not because of what I accomplished, but outside the running world, I got a lot of judgment. And that was really hard. Anybody outside my medical circle or runners were like, you should not be doing this. This is not safe. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt your baby. And so I did go into that with a lot of weight on my shoulders, knowing if something goes wrong, I'm never going to hear the end of this. The race director is a friend of mine, and he must have told all of the aid stations. So you have aid stations probably, I don't know, every 5 to 6 miles. And I wasn't super big at that point. You probably would not have known I was pregnant.
No, 5 months is like that weird, like, have you gained weight? Are you like,
correct.
You don't want to ask, but you also are like, your body's changed.
Yeah. So I just looked a little bit chubbier, really. Mm-hmm. I had to go out. I just went up one size, and close to 5. But every station that I went to, they'd go, oh, here's the pregnant one, or what do you need? And run over to me. Have you been eating? Do you have any trash? What have you been eating? And, I felt like a celebrity. And I don't know how they really knew who I'm assuming he must have told them, and then somehow they knew who, I don't know. And the other runners, they do have a ruck challenge. So as a joke, I used an old race bib, flipped over and put it on my, the back of my pack. And it said 50 miles with baby ruck. Well, some people thought that the sign was like, oh, ha, 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 I'm making fun of ruckers because I have a little tiny pack. And some people got the joke and were like, what? You're doing this pregnant? If they knew, or friends, they would come up and encourage me. And I felt so much love that day, more than I have in any other ultra race, any other marathon. And that's what I thought, these people care. One guy in particular, did not know him, but he came up and we were just chatting. And I said, oh, I was walking. I said, well, I'm pregnant. And he goes, oh, you're the person. We heard about you. And he just walked with me. He could have gone on running. He could have gone on going fast. But I thought that's just the running community, especially the trail running community. It was probably about 30 miles in. I was struggling. What was happening was I would drink a lot. My bladder would get a little bit full and it would be uncomfortable to run. And so I'd have to walk to the next porta potty. And I was frustrated because I'm like, I didn't train to do this walking. So I came into an aid station. Mind you, I'd done 30 miles at this point, 20 miles to go. And I just said, I don't know if I can finish. If I'm going to finish, I'm going to have to walk it out. And they looked at me and they said, so walk it out. You have enough time. And I go, but I didn't train to walk this race. And she said, is anything wrong? We went through, she goes, is anything wrong with you? The baby, blah, blah, blah. No, I said, I just not comfortable to run. And so they said, you just walk to the next station. And then, I get there and they're like, well, how are you doing? Okay, just And actually at that point, my husband, it really wasn't convenient for him to pick me up anyway. So I said, well, I'll walk till I get to this one road that's closer. You can come pick me up there. And by the time I got there, he goes, you only have 10 miles left. Well, okay. So, and every time they're just like, take your time, do what you want, and just so encouraging. And I'm like, I look back to that 30-mile, and those people are like, just walk it. You don't have to run it. You're not out racing. And I was fine. Honestly, I was not even hardly sore. We had planned it with my OB appointments that I went in the next day and checked out. I really wasn't that sore, but just that support and love from complete strangers. I'm like, I want to remember that whenever I go into a race. You don't know what somebody's struggling with and caring. Just turning around and saying good job, because what they didn't know is that everybody actually had not shared that I was going to do that and was training on social media, because I just didn't want to deal with that. But everybody in my personal life was very negative and said very unkind things. And so I walked into that race and I just kept telling myself, my OB is on board with us. I have no, I'm not high risk. My chiropractor says I'm doing good. My physical therapy, my husband was, I'm fine. I'm just going to, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I still had the thought of, I'll just see how far I can get. Right. If I don't finish, and my husband was like, if you don't finish, that's fine. You don't have to. So yeah, it's just, you never know what somebody's dealing with when they're doing a race. And remembering just to encourage them. We might look at them and be like, man, they're a powerhouse athlete. This looks so easy for them, but you don't know their journey to get there on that.
That is such a incredible story, right? Because you are, or we, right? Like this now, people having kids now, or, my daughters are 13 and 15, and the mentality is very much exercising when you're pregnant is bad, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to
Yeah.
do harm. And it's like, do the people that were in your life, did they not, you don't have to answer this, but it's like a rhetorical question, but did they not trust you to know your body and to know that you wouldn't do something that would harm the baby, right? Like, it's like one of those things where I find that older generations, and I'm making a big assumption that it's older people of older generations that had these comments for you, where it was, if you're pregnant, it's like being injured.
Yeah.
Essentially, you're pregnant, you're injured, you really can't do much, you shouldn't be working hard, you shouldn't do any of these things. And it's like, okay, but you're still you, right?
Yeah.
Like you're still Annika, you're still
Yeah.
someone who enjoys to move her body, and the way that you do that is by trail running and running. So it's so interesting to see that you are caught at
Yeah.
the crosshairs
Yeah.
of changing knowledge of the female pregnant body.
Yeah. Well, and what most of the people didn't realize is, like, I literally got pregnant, running 50, 60 miles a week, training for a marathon, doing speed workouts, which had not been the case. It was very interesting with my 2 other pregnancies. I basically had to stop running, but that told me, okay, my body knows I'm healthy enough to get pregnant, even though I'm running these, like, it's very, and that's what my OB said. And I remember asking him, okay, what about heart rate? He's like, if you're breathing, your heart is pumping, you're fine. And I was like, okay, because you hear like, oh, you're pregnant, you can only let your heart rate go up to a certain amount. And I know for some people that might be the case. Again, it's talk to your, physicians and whatever. But he was just kind of like, yeah, you're fine. He was like, if you got pregnant running this amount of mileage and doing what you're doing, it's fine. A lot of people, what their concern was me falling.
Okay.
And, he had said, he goes, I probably would not have been okay if it was a race you had not done before, but because it was local, I literally picked apart the whole course and covered all of it. And so I knew it. I could have done it in sleep, essentially. And to me, it was not as technical as some of the other ones I've done. And So I could see that, but I wasn't huge pregnant. Even I wasn't 9 months, 8 months pregnant, where you kind of get off balance. I was not that big at all. It probably, even if I had, I would have been, fine at that point too. But that's people like, what if you fall and you injure the baby? And it was just ignorance, right? And I go back to the generations. If you go back, years and years, the women that were pregnant, they worked really hard. They did not stop.
Mm-hmm.
I think about my great grandmother in
Mm-hmm.
World War II built airplanes. She said she sat on this little stool. Her husband was deployed and put together airplane parts in an unair conditioned place, worked until she had the baby, returned shortly. But now we're at this place where it's like, yeah, that's just too much. I think everybody, they
Mm-hmm.
really didn't trust my judgment. Honestly, they didn't. They were just like, that's too much at that point. And that's why I feel like it stands out so much to me, is just the kindness of complete strangers there. And it was funny because after that, Team Run Run screenshot, there was one of their members or somebody was on this thread on Facebook, maybe, and somebody shared about this lady who did the Badger Mountain Challenge, and she was pregnant and they got to run with her. And it was me. And she goes, I think they're talking about you and how inspiring it was and all of this. And so I was like, yeah, I said, I think that is me, and she goes, here's the person's name. And I didn't really know who it was, of course, but it was kind of funny to,
That's so funny. I mean, it's in line with you feeling like a celebrity, right? Like everyone knew who you were, and you're
yeah,
gonna be someone that people talk about outside of the race, which is in and of itself great because again, it's breaking down with these stereotypes of what you think a woman is capable of doing and what you think someone who's pregnant is capable of doing. And you did it. And in a way, you proved everyone wrong
yeah.
in hopefully a way that felt vindictive. You're like, see, I
It did.
told you.
I know. And I honestly, after all of my ultras, I was barely even sore. Probably because I walked most of it,
Hmm.
at least I would say I walked about half of it, So I was like, well, man, that's the key to not being sore. Just walk it, right? Don't worry about how much time it takes.
Yeah.
Just, lollygag along. And there was very few times that I was by myself. And I felt like all the other running, because it's kind of this loop type circle course, and they'd come back around. How are you doing? Maybe they had finished a part and they were going back in. And so
Hmm.
I felt very well taken care of. My big concern too was like, I didn't want to finish in the dark. I was
Yeah.
really scared of, again, tripping, falling in the
Yeah.
dark. And so I did have probably the last, I don't know, 5 miles or something, but it was on trail, but it was very groomed. And it was a section that I knew very well, but all of the 100 milers were going back out at that point, and they were all like stopping. How are you doing? You're almost there. And so I didn't feel scared or alone at all. I was like, that was kind of funny because that was my biggest thing. I don't want to finish in the dark. And then I was like, well, that wasn't bad.
Not
Um,
when you have support, right? Like that support is what's going to carry you. And it's going to
yeah,
feel like even make you feel lighter in your body, knowing that all these
totally.
people are watching out for you.
Yes, it totally. I knew that, and they were tracking me. I mean, they do every runner, but they specifically had come into the stage. Oh, there's our pregnant runner. How are you doing? Um, yeah,
That's
there. So
so awesome.
I do still, honestly, there's a part of me that looks back on that memory and I'm like, how did I do that? Because 50 miles is a feat in itself. And
Hmm.
yes, I was in good shape for being pregnant, but not my tip top athlete, running. And I still am like, and people, how did you do that? I said, I don't know. But, in the back of my mind, there was the reality I may never finish this. I may
Hmm.
never even get to start it or finish. And so it was just like one foot in front of the other. One week in the next, I'm like, I'll just do this week of training. I'll just do this week. We'll do this checkup. And that's just kind of how I looked at it. And then it was like, okay, I'm here. I'm doing it. Oh, okay. Just one more station um, to do that. And it did take me long. I think I was hoping that I could do it in like, I don't know, 12 to 13 hours comfortably, and it took me 14 and a half. And that was, but then at some point the volunteer I was talking about, she was just like, who cares how long it takes you?
Mm-hmm.
You're out here doing this and you're pregnant. Like, don't even worry about that. I said, yeah, you're right. That is really kind of selfish of me. Just go out and do it. But I had, like I told her, I was like, I trained to jog or run. It would still be slower. The runnable parts, hike what I needed to on that. But that also, I feel like, made me enjoy it a little bit more. Kind of not worrying about my time per se. It was just finishing
Yeah,
healthy.
I was going to say, it sounds like an experience that you were really present for, right? It's like you
Yeah.
can't, one that you're not taking for granted because it could end at any point. Even during the race, it could have been you
Right.
were able to do it. But what if you're on the race and like, my gosh, round ligament pain or something would have
Yeah.
like flared up and then you would have been
Right.
like, yeah, I guess I'm done. And
Yeah.
then,
Or stomach issues, because
Mhm.
like my doctor's big concern was he didn't want me getting dehydrated.
Yeah,
And so he did give me a requirement of I had to drink so much per hour. I don't remember what that was. Per hour, because he's like, if you get dehydrated, you'll probably start having contractions preterm. And again, this was all very local. So the race is the whole terrain, like at any moment, I could have called 911.
yeah,
If it would have taken me to the hospital where my OB was, and we knew that. He was like, they can call, so we had a
yeah.
plan if something. But I'm also very intuitive on that. And so I knew, like, hey, if for some reason it gets, my stomach, I can't keep, I'm done. And I wouldn't have pushed myself in that instance on there, where normally not pregnant, like, okay, I don't feel great. I haven't eaten or drank for a couple hours. I'll come back through. That's okay. Pregnant? No, not the case. You've got to keep those calories,
Mm.
coming in through you.
Yeah,
Um,
the stakes are different.
yeah. Yeah, but it can be done. And I think we are seeing that a little bit more and more pregnant runners, where they
Mhm.
usually um, would say, just, I think kind of the blanket statement is everybody has to stop. There was a point, where all of mine, I think this pregnancy was about maybe 32 weeks, where I just did walking and stretching and yoga. The longest I went was 35 weeks, but then I delivered at 37. So, I think there is something to a point of letting your body relax a little bit
Mhm.
towards the end and prepare for labor instead of doing so much. But a big piece of that was just me mentally. I do so much better moving. I do so much better mentally with goals. And so I knew if I just had to sit around and go, well, shucks, I can't run, I can't do this, I would have suffered mentally. So just to have
Mhm.
that out there, like, yeah, I may not make it, but you know what? I'm sure going to keep trying. I'm still going to keep training for that race. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that leads me to my next question, which is how do you think this memory and this experience has shaped who you are as a runner?
I feel like you kind of already said it, not taking it for granted. So many times I feel like prior up to that, I would like, I'm training for this, I'm doing this, maybe like I deserve this a little bit, selfish attitude.
Mhm.
And I've realized it, and also in coaching, right? We can do everything perfectly. We can eat right. You can step funny off a curb and twist your ankle, and all that training, all that money down the toilet.
Yep.
You're out. Um, and that is the reality of being an athlete and doing something like that. And so I guess it's made me hold my goals and dreams a little bit through an open hand, right? Instead of saying, this is what I want and I'm going to fight for it, going, well, I'm going to do the best I can, but I may not get there. And not an attitude of I don't care, but just appreciating, hey, I had a great week of training. I'm currently building back up because I'm actually going to do the same 50 in March again of next year. And being thankful that, hey, I can get up at 4 a.m. and go do a trail run with friends and come back by 6:30 and I've already got that in. And just appreciating every run, right? It's not about, and sometimes we don't enjoy the training process a lot. Like you get so focused with your big goal, right? I want to get to Boston, and you get so focused on your one event, your race, that you're not enjoying those months of training that gets you there. And so I've learned since then, because after that baby there, when I built that, I did 100K, and I really loved that training process. And I got up to a lot, built back up in mileage. And that was just such a phenomenal day and race, because I did enjoy the whole process of it, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things. And even just hearing you say that, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's totally me every summer. When at least the past 2 summers, I've trained for the Chicago Marathon. And this summer was better because I started running on the treadmill, and that helped me with like the heat. But it
Yeah.
is really easy to gloss over the training and put a lot of emphasis on that one race day. Whereas what I'm hearing you say is that it's like we would all be better if we cultivated an appreciation for every single run that got us to race day, so that race day isn't just the end all be all. It's
Right.
not to it is an important day, but that day is only possible because of, the 100 that preceded it.
Yep. Yeah.
So I love that. If you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would you tell her?
Oh, oh man. There would be a lot, because I laugh now. I hated, as a younger self, I was so insecure, and I hated anything where I had to, like, sports, athletic, move my body, because I was afraid that I would look weird, people would make fun of me. And now all of my jobs are with running. I'm race directing, I'm coaching athletes online. I started coaching cross country, and I'm a head coach, and done that 2 years. And I'm like, if somebody would have told me that as a child, I would not believe them. But if I could go back and tell myself, I think it would be just not to worry about what what people think about you, your outward appearance, being comfortable, just going and doing things for the fun of it. I spent so much time, being worried about, was I the right size, wanting to be accepted, that I really ruined most of my middle high school years, and didn't enjoy them at all. But that has given me perspective now that I'm working with middle and high school kids, to try to encourage them in ways that I wish I would have had somebody there for me to do that. So yeah, that's a tough question, because there's a lot I would love to go back and change. But you know what? It makes us who we are today.
Absolutely.
And those hard situations, I'm able to pull from that and draw from that and help encourage these kids that I'm, working with in the cross country season.
Yeah, especially because those are things that we didn't really talk about growing up, right? Like no one really spoke about um just how, like, it's so silly. This is a silly story, but yesterday I was having my daughter record a video of me for something that I wanted to do on Instagram. And she showed me the video, and I was like, nope, we need to redo it. And she's like, why? I'm like, because I have a double chin in the video. So I need to fix my posture. And she's like, really, mommy? And I'm like, yes. But also, like, we're having conversations about double chins in our household. And I think it's wonderful to normalize those things, or to normalize just an awareness of it, because we are in changing bodies, which is
Yep.
such a beautiful, even for you, kind of a parallel path of, you are a woman in a changing body, because I think as women, our bodies are changing all the time.
All the time. And if you're going to be a mother and have kids, your body is always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there, I mean, I'm a totally different size than I was even before I had my kids, although I was an adult in the last 10 years,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I have daughters, so it's always really important for me to like not speak negatively about my body, but to be like, wow, my body has changed and I'm
Right.
doing my best to embrace it. To also
Right.
normalize that it is hard to embrace how your body is changing
Yeah.
and how everything's changing.
Yeah.
So
And it is very
it's great.
important. That was, how we speak about ourselves. I don't ever use the word, I don't like this, or I'm too fat, or because, my daughters are young. They're 3 and 6, but they do hear, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they love to come get ready with me, especially Sunday morning before church and, get their makeup. And I'll be like, you are so beautiful, but you know what? You shine so beautiful from the inside. Like, this is so fun. We love to do our makeup and our hair and look
Mm-hmm.
pretty. Really, what's important is what's inside of us and our
Yep.
heart, and that you're kind and you're a friend. And just having, I love those sweet moments talking to them. And man, yeah, I'm like, oh, if I can, they cannot deal with the same issues, that I did. I know they'll have their own struggles, right? Like every generation has something
Yep.
different.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. To look forward, what hopes do you have for your future runner self?
Oh. Well, my goal for, so not this coming year, 26, 27, I will be 40 and I want to do a 100 miler. So that is my big goal. Cause again, running, yeah, the nighttime challenge, I'm not a night person. So moving through the night would be difficult, but that is, yeah, my big goal. And so also my 40th year, I want to do big, scary things. So I kind of have a list of them.
Do it. Do it. You only turned 41s.
That's
Um,
right.
so kind of on that theme of 40 and doing those big scary things, how do you normally celebrate yourself as a runner?
Oh, I don't know that I do.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm like, when I need to go get a new pair of shoes, I always feel like I'm celebrating myself, and that makes me super happy every once in a while. It doesn't get super cold here, I would say, but we'll have a couple weeks of coldness, and I do usually train through the winter. And so every year I'm trying to find that right piece of winter gear to add to my collection to help me be more comfortable. And so that I always feel like, ooh, the other year I bought these Carhartt mittens. And I'm like, I've got my gloves. I'm ready to go. I just, and I don't know, just little things like that makes me feel like a little bit more appreciated, I guess, on
Yeah.
there.
Listen, you're doing amazing things, putting your body out there to run, creating experiences where other bodies can go and run. And I was just curious. That's probably going to be my favorite question this season because it's like, oh, wait a minute. Do I celebrate
I
myself?
know,
And
I
then
know.
how do I celebrate myself? And then hopefully, it just plants that seed of celebrate yourself a little more often
Yeah.
because what we think is quote unquote normal, it's not, right? Like because we're runners and because we do all these things, like I'm hearing you say, like just when you were talking about your husband and how he said it's only 10 miles left. And my thought was only an ultra runner would say that because it's like me saying when I'm in the middle of marathon training, oh, it's only 3 miles, it's only
Right.
4 miles. And it's like, no, it's not. It's actually
Right.
like that's 3, 4 miles, right? Like that is still time, that is still stuff on your body. So that's my hope is that that question will kind of prompt you to think of like, how
Yeah.
else
I
celebrate
know.
my
I'm going to think of, carry that into this next training cycle.
yeah.
Like,
Where can you
what?
build more pockets of celebration?
Right. Right. I need to celebrate my week of, or my month of training.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen,
Yeah.
I'll let you figure it out.
Yes.
All right, I have two more questions. The first one is where can we find you and what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. Okay. Um, so I am on Instagram, Grace for Every Mile. Honestly, I'm not I don't post a whole lot on there, but if you want to follow along on journeys whenever I randomly do, if you're interested in like run coaching, you can just put in my name on Team Run Run. And I do have a very simple website that needs updated, which is Every Mile Coaching. So you will find on there my information about coaching and the races that I do put on. There's a list on that, and a little bit more of my running story is
Love
there.
that. I love that. Okay, final question is, what are your final words for us?
Well, I think I would have to say, you know, I loved the topic and this series that you're doing, because as a runner and as a coach, I see so much emphasis on time goals. And people get so focused on that. Again, like we were talking, they don't enjoy, you know, the process. It's all about, I have to get to this time. And everything has to be perfect to get them to that time, right? We're talking weather and the week's worth of food and not sick and da da da. And then their hopes and everything is just dashed. And that's one thing as a coach that I'm trying to do. Like, hey, your race day is not a test. It's a day of celebration. You have done so much work to get here and you need to be proud of yourself. It's, yes, that can be really important, but celebrate every run, celebrate every week of training, celebrate your strengths. Like, you know what, few weeks ago, you were like, man, 10 miles seems really far. And now you're like, oh, 18 milers, not a big deal, right? Look how much you've improved in a few weeks, and not getting so tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
On, I have to hit this pace, but appreciating again your body, your strength, your health that's allowing you to run a marathon, half marathon, 5K. You know, for some, you know, I've heard people like, I just never thought I could do a 5K, and that is amazing in there. And yes, again, you know, I know there are paces and there are, you know, everybody's dream is Boston. Yes, I would love to get there too. But I've learned, especially through pregnancy, that doing any run really is a blessing and it is a gift. Doing any race, you know, we have the financial means to have the shoes to sign up for the race, to travel maybe to go do that. And that is a comfort. You know, some people don't even have the money to do that.
Yep.
So I do feel pretty fortunate, and I try not to take that for granted. And I would like to, you know, encourage other people that too. If you can just, hey, lace up your shoes and sign up for a half marathon and go do it, like you're doing amazing things.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's so many, it is a privilege to be able to run. And again, when we're like doing it and we're in it, we forget how
take it for granted.
remarkable it is. So,
yeah,
Annika, thank you so much for joining me today. It's just, you're incredible on so many different levels, and I'm just grateful that you took the time to come back on the podcast and tell us about your 50-mile baby. Like that's impressive. So thank you so much for joining me, and everyone, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye.